Wow, good job, Midoriya. You made quite a mess this time. Before we hop into this attack and defense of Midoriya's decision in chapter 305 of My Hero Academia, please do me a favor, drop your own thoughts on Midoriya's decision in the comment section down below. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, let's get into it. What's up guys, I got the pencil here, and I'll admit, I was inspired to do this. I am going to be both attacking and defending Midoriya's chapter 305 decision on Shigaraki and the entire context surrounding the situation. Because I see a lot of people are talking about it, I want to talk about it some more, because obviously some people have very differing views on the entire situation, and as I already explained simply in my own review of the chapter, I'm not surprised. I think it's fine, and I don't really care, because it isn't surprising. Midoriya is supposed to be this kind of character, but I'll go more into that once I start defending Midoriya. So let's get right into that. In fact, contrary to the title, rather than attacking and then defending, I'm going to be defending and then attacking, because that's how I would prefer to do it, since I admittedly am still on the attacking side, if anything, compared to the defending side. I don't know, I have a very specific preference for my main characters, I have a very specific preference for characters in general, but I'll go into that more in depth. Now, I'm not going to say I'm speaking for either side in its entirety. These are just my own points that I came up with upon scanning my own thoughts about it, scanning through the internet to see what other people were saying about it, stuff like that, and just talking about it in general. And I really want to hear you guys' talk on this. Like, this is, once again, just a really general discussion video. I want to hear your thoughts on it, extremely in depth. Go wild in the comment section. I'll read the essays. These are fun to read. But regardless of that, let's hop right into this defense. So, what's the main point of defense for this entire decision? The obvious primary defense is that Midoriya is not necessarily a character, he's a symbol, in the same way that Midoriya viewed himself more as one for all than he did Midoriya. And what I mean by this is, Midoriya is not necessarily allowed to really be a truly flawed main character, a character that goes through extreme levels of depth and development and stuff like that. Him saving Shigaraki is a fundamental part of his purpose as a symbol. He's not supposed to be realistic. His whole want to save a mass murderer is not something that we're supposed to take at face value. We're supposed to take that as Midoriya being the perfect symbol to be the perfect hero by the very bare definition of a hero in the way that Midoriya sees it. That's all he looks at it as. He understands that Shigaraki killed a bunch of people and honestly doesn't really deserve saving, but it doesn't really matter to him because he wants to save people. That's it. He figures all the people who are already dead or injured, already dead and injured, and he might as well try to save this one crying child. That's what Midoriya is all about, saving regardless of the cost of that saving. It's why he constantly destroys his body. It's why he's constantly pushing himself forward beyond his limits, no matter how little sense it makes, stuff like that. It's literally just what Midoriya's function in the narrative is as a symbol type character rather than a much more developing actuary type character. That's why I say Midoriya is okay. That is him filling his function within the narrative. So purposely, for Midoriya's purpose as the symbol of a perfect quote-unquote hero, that's what he is going for, so it makes perfect sense on that front. That's why his decision is fine there. 2, this decision is perfect for someone of Midoriya's age. Midoriya is 16, as Nana admits, as all the One For All users admit. Killing isn't exactly something that you put on a 16-year-old's mind, even if he wants to be a hero, even if he understands that killing may sometimes be necessary. So I can definitely see why Midoriya would make this decision. It makes sense for him to be a 16-year-old boy who has never taken a life before to have hesitation about taking a life. So I'm not mad at him for that. Once again, makes perfect sense for his age range and his character, so that's perfectly fine. That's another solid point of defense for it. Another solid point is that he does accept that he may have to kill Shigaraki. He just wants to try saving him first. Now, does this lead to risks? Yes, but regardless of that, what Midoriya says is that he believes that he thinks he can save Shigaraki, but he does understand that he may have to kill him. That's fine. That's actually really good for Midoriya's character, because I feel like an earlier Midoriya would have said, no, regardless of whatever Shigaraki did, and regardless of whatever Shigaraki does, I'm going to save him, as that's my role as a hero. But Shigaraki is not exactly a character that Midoriya is 100% sure he can save, so he is willing and ready to kill him if the need be. That's another solid point of defense. He's still willing to kill him. That's perfectly fine. We like that. That's good. It makes sense. It's logical. There we go. And then this is also, once again, minor character growth. This is great for him. The idea that he's willing to accept the fact that he may have to kill Shigaraki. It's a development that I personally never thought Midoriya would even come to. So when I read that in the chapter, I was perfectly fine with it. I'm glad that he's willing to do it. But other than that, the final hypothetical point of defense that I've seen a lot of people talking about is the idea that this could lead to a Midoriya growing up arc. Midoriya realizing that the world is not as black and white as he sees it, and that he can't just go around risking saving people who have no regard for human beings. That's the thing. He's gonna start to realize that, maybe utilitarianism is the right thing to do. You save as many people as possible, but you can't save everyone. Even All Might knows this. So that's the thing. Maybe this is just gonna lead into Midoriya attempting to save Shigaraki, realizing he can't save Shigaraki, and then a whole bunch of people dying, maybe even someone he personally knows, such as Gran Torino dying, and then he finally kicks in the high gear and decides that Shigaraki has got to go though, because it's the end course of events. Shigaraki can't be saved. That's it. The end. And thus Midoriya has to go on the warpath. Either way, even if this is not the case, this is a point that makes sense for Midoriya's character up to this point. It makes sense for his idea of a hero. It makes sense for his age. It makes sense for his minor character growth. It makes sense for everything. He is willing to kill Shigaraki. He just wants to attempt saving him first. However, I and many others still find problems with this, and that is where we switch to the attacking of this. And let's hop straight into it. Main issue that I have with this, straight up, Shigaraki is a full-grown adult who made the conscious decision to murder multiple people. And I'm not talking multiple, entire cities worth of people. As Midoriya himself notes, countless people, and he has injured many more, and he plans to destroy many more and kill many more. He's a fully grown adult. This is not a child running around with the capability to destroy the world. This is a full-grown man who is in conscious control of his actions. Why does he deserve saving? What did he do to deserve saving? As far as I can tell from what Midoriya's context for saving Shigaraki is the idea that he saw a crying child, a little spark of innocence left within the depths of Shigaraki's conscious, within the deep depths of the vestige world for a very short period of time. And this is after he has seen Shigaraki consciously commit to the murder of countless innocent people who have done nothing wrong, and consciously attack Midoriya himself with no regard for Midoriya's life, only his power, and constantly harm multiple people Midoriya personally knows and cares about. This is a person who seemingly, especially in Midoriya's shoes, is beyond any type of saving. This would be like All Might trying to save All for One, because he saw a fraction of a good person within All for One for around a minute at most, while All for One is trying to take one for all from him and proceed to kill All Might. It doesn't make much sense to me as an individual, but I understand Midoriya is a completely different character than what I understand. Midoriya isn't necessarily the most logical person, but since I operate on an idea of logic, and I was there with Midoriya, and I saw everything Midoriya went through, and as Midoriya admits, watched countless people die because of Shigaraki's conscious, fully adult actions, I feel like Shigaraki should take responsibility, and maybe shouldn't even have saving be on the table for him. However, that's me. That's my own problem with it. I can definitely understand people having different views about that, but it just doesn't make sense to me. Midoriya openly states that countless people have died because of Shigaraki. Many of the people he has known personally have nearly died and have been severely injured by Shigaraki. He knows that many more people can very easily die because of the situation about Shigaraki, but none of that matters because he saw a glimpse of innocence for about a minute within Shigaraki's mind. This is a fully grown man. He needs to take responsibility for his actions. But that's me. I'm not a 16-year-old superhero with the power to destroy mountains. So I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to leave that be. But let's move on to the next point, which attacks Midoriya's choice made in chapter 305. I don't know what Midoriya's plan is to save Shigaraki, because Midoriya is the exact embodiment of everything Shigaraki hates. Shigaraki was not one for conversation when he was attacking Midoriya for one for all. I don't know what the plan was. Is he just gonna... I don't know what the plan was, and I don't know what the plan is now. Is he going to talk to Shigaraki? Is he going to beat him down and then talk to him? How likely is Shigaraki going to suddenly switch to your side because A, you started talking to him when you're the embodiment of what he hates, or B, you beat him up violently and then proceed to continue to be the embodiment of what he hates and then try to get him to change? What is saving Shigaraki? It seems like such a nebulous goal, a nebulous weird concept, which may be the point. Midoriya admits that he doesn't know how he could go about doing it, but why is that even an option then from everything you know of Shigaraki? This is just me acting from Midoriya's information alone and what Midoriya has personally seen, not all the extra stuff we know about Shigaraki and how deep and dark he is into his delusions and how much he is willing to destroy society and how far his character has progressed towards that very goal. This is just what Midoriya himself has witnessed. Going off that knowledge, there's no logical pathway that he can get to when it comes to saving Shigaraki. I'm legitimately just confused, and I think the only possible explanation is that he wants to save Shigaraki from All for One, but then how's he going to stop Shigaraki? If he breaks All for One out of Shigaraki and frees Shigaraki, Shigaraki still has the same goal as All for One, except he wants to destroy everything. Technically, it'd be better to have All for One in control, because at least All for One is going to maintain some sort of order, even if it's extremely chaotic. Shigaraki plans to destroy it all, something Midoriya knows, but that doesn't matter, because he needs to be saved, because why not? Another point that I just don't like, this is once again more so the situation caused by Midoriya's choice rather than Midoriya's choice itself. I'm afraid, and I know Horikoshi has said that Shigaraki is fully beyond redemption and can't be saved in the past, but obviously he can very easily go back on his word. So the situation that scares me is that all of Shigaraki's character development could just poop out the window because of Midoriya. And while that's fine, because it's the purpose that Midoriya is supposed to serve in the narrative, I don't think it would be that good for either character. As characters specifically, as plot functions, as vessels for a theme within a narrative, this is perfect. If Shigaraki gets saved, Midoriya's point is proven, the lesson is learned for every child reading this, and remember, this is a shonen manga, it is a manga for boys, not even men, so this is exactly what everything seems to be leading to, the perfect ending where Midoriya gets his little happiness of saving Shigaraki and proving the world wrong, that Shigaraki didn't need to be destroyed, and that's fine. That's the thing, that's the weird thing. I'm perfectly okay with this choice, and if Shigaraki gets saved, I just don't like what it does for the characters. It does great for the narrative, horrible for the characters, but it depends. What do you think is more valuable? I personally care about characters more. I love a good narrative, but I love great characters even more. However, I can definitely see why I don't like this, because I don't want Shigaraki to just go downhill, and I can definitely see why people would like this, because this perfectly makes Midoriya the great main character everyone sees him as, because he sticks to his guns and then gets it done one way or another, even if it seems logistically impossible. And that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that, and I'm glad people enjoy that. It's just personally not for me. And then the other thing that this doesn't really make sense to me about is that it really leaves Midoriya in the exact opposite position of a hero by willing to even chance the deaths of many more people for the sake of one. And what do I mean by this? I mean, Midoriya, by even risking saving Shigaraki, is risking the chance that Shigaraki escapes. He's risking the chance that Shigaraki goes out and kills countless more people. He's risking the chance that one of his own people that he actually knows ends up dead. He's risking so much for one person. And unless I'm mistaken, All Might did not save everybody. Endeavor had a higher hero saving count than All Might ever did. All Might knew for a fact that you couldn't save everyone. And sometimes the ends had to justify the means, and you had to think of for the greater good. And no offense to Midoriya in this case, but saving Shigaraki, a person who is most certainly down with the murder, doesn't seem like the best thing to do if you want to be a hero and save a bunch of lives. I know, I suppose in Midoriya's mind every single life counts equally, but obviously it doesn't, because he's willing to sacrifice the countless people, hand wave that, and hand wave all the damage that people have gone through because of Shigaraki just to save him because of this little spark of innocence. But that's once again fine, because once again Midoriya didn't lose anybody important. That's the main thing that comes down to it when we're talking about this in particular. Midoriya didn't lose anybody important, so all these countless people are just that, countless people. They're a nameless entity. He knows Shigaraki as a person. He saw Shigaraki's childhood innocence. So all the countless people, it's okay if they die. It's okay if more people die too, because he doesn't know about them. He doesn't necessarily care about them, because while his idea of a hero is to save at least one person, as long as you save one person, you're doing good. It doesn't matter how many other people die. If you don't know them, they're just dead. They're numbers. It doesn't really matter to Midoriya. That's what he tells us, at least and that's the thing, he doesn't necessarily tell us that. He's just letting us know gently that, oh yeah, he's willing to sacrifice all these extra lives. He's willing to sacrifice the suffering of his friends, because it doesn't necessarily matter as long as he gets to save Shigaraki, as long as he gets to prove his point that he should have at least tried it. He gave it the good old college try, or I suppose the good old high school try. Then he can feel good about himself after Shigaraki ignores him, goes to murder a bunch of people, maybe kill one of his personal friends, and then he'll grow up. That's perfectly fine. Once again, that's the weird thing. Even though I'm meant to be attacking Midoriya on this, I'm not mad at him because it makes sense to me. It makes perfect sense, I just don't like it. And that's the main thing. Everyone who's defending this decision is perfectly fine. They're perfectly right on their choice because it does make sense for Midoriya's character. He doesn't know these people. This is all irrelevant to him. They are a bunch of nameless people, and all Midoriya really cares about is the individual, no matter how dark, deep, and twisted that individual is. He was willing to try and talk to Muscular. He was willing to try and talk to Overhaul. He was willing to try and talk to Stain. All these people who had their ways set in them. He was willing to try and talk to Gentle, even though he didn't talk to any of them, especially not Gentle. He literally just hunted down Gentle violently. But regardless of that, even though he did that, he's willing to give Shigaraki a chance, because Shigaraki's an individual he actually got to know. This wasn't a person that popped up out of nowhere and killed a whole bunch of people and wanted to kill Midoriya, even though technically that's what Shigaraki was. But while he did all that, he popped in, wanted to kill him and a whole bunch of other people, and ended up succeeding in killing a whole bunch of other people. Midoriya actually got a little glimpse of the childhood innocence, and that's all Midoriya cares about. He sees the hope, he sees a glimmer of light, and that's all he's willing to grab for. And that makes sense for Midoriya because he's naive, he's ignorant, he doesn't necessarily know the scope of life yet. He's 16, so it makes sense to me, but I just don't like it because I just want my characters to be a bit more mature, and like, I don't know, the utilitarian mindset is locked in my head for some reason, so I find problems with it. But regardless of that point, let's move into the next point against this decision, and it sort of ties directly into the last point. This idea of a hero that is willing to save one person after all they've done, especially in the way that Shigaraki has done in the mass murder sense, doesn't follow any definition of hero that Midoriya has had. Not even the All Might one. All Might did not try to save All For One. All Might doesn't really try to save villains. He tries to defeat them, to save people. I can't remember an instance of where All Might sat down and talked to All For One without spite. I can't remember an instance where All Might sat down and had a conversation with the villain over their psychological problems and hopefully tried to pull out their innocence. The idea that Midoriya is following All Might's lead as a person who saves people is not really the case. All Might tried to save innocents. He tried to save people who couldn't protect themselves. He didn't try to save mass murdering villains. At least as far as I remember, unless I'm mistaken. If All Might ever did try to save mass murdering villains, please remind me. I don't know, like this is, I know I sound oddly sarcastic, I'm trying to keep a measured tone, I'm trying to like be a bit more like focused on this discussion, so this isn't sarcasm. Like actually, if All Might tried to save any villains, let me know, in the way that Midoriya is saving them. Because this weird mutation of herohood where you save everybody, especially those who harm the innocents, doesn't seem like something any hero has ever done, at least as far as I can remember. Once again, if this is wrong, if any of the heroes that Midoriya knows, especially his idol All Might, ever tried to talk to or save a villain in the way that Midoriya is talking about saving a villain, rather than saving the innocents, let me know. I don't know. I mean, I guess Midoriya is technically saving the innocents. He's saving Shigaraki's innocence, but Shigaraki's innocence is like 14 years old at this point, and he's killed a bunch of people. But neither here nor there. That's just a problem I personally have with it. Moving into the next one, it displays a willingness of Midoriya that's kind of dark, which works because My Hero Academia is a very dark series. Like, the mass murder of innocents, the child abuse, everything in My Hero Academia is pretty darn dark after like the first arc. So I'd say that it makes sense for Midoriya to have this dark mindset, but this kind of choice, the idea that he's even willing to think of saving Shigaraki after all he's done, it shows that Midoriya is kind of willing to pardon the actions of conscious, fully thinking adults who have decided to kill a bunch of people as long as he can save them. And that's a little bit concerning. I don't think that you should be willing to let mass murderers go or try to save mass murderers after they've done heinous acts, not even murderers, just heinous acts in general. So that's just me. I understand that's Midoriya's mindset. It's a darker mindset that seems a little bit contradictory to Midoriya's character, especially his ideas about herohood and saving people. But I guess as long as he's saving a person, it doesn't matter who that person is, even if they've done horrible things. Yeah, that's just weird. That's weird. I don't know. That's the thing. A lot of this just seems weird, and it leads to a lot of weird concepts. Like, by reading this chapter, it makes you realize a whole lot about Midoriya that you didn't realize before, and not in a good way, Like, it makes him out to be a much more, not necessarily more naive, but more like dark, sacrificial character than he's been shown to be. Like, his willingness to sacrifice multiple lives just for the chance of saving Shigaraki after all Shigaraki has done seems like a really dark thing, at least to me. I don't know, that seems really weird and off-putting, but I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of like that, the fact that Midoriya is sort of so locked in on his ideas that he's blind to everything else that's happening. That's actually really good for a character. Hopefully he develops from that, but I doubt he will. Maybe he will. Who knows? Maybe Horikoshi will develop Midoriya, but I think Horikoshi's locked into this perfect symbol Midoriya and doesn't really want to chance anything else about developing him, anything beyond his personality and confidence. Unless he fails to save Shigaraki, then I'll be intrigued. But at the moment, based on 305 chapters of information, I don't necessarily see Midoriya changing that much anymore. But let's move on from that to, this kind of feels contradictory for Midoriya's character, I'm not gonna lie. The vitriolic rage that he had against both Muscular and Overhaul, two villains that he wielded his 100% power and beyond against in an attempt to violently stop them. That is the Midoriya that I've come to expect a bit when dealing with people of their caliber. These people who are willing to do heinous acts just for their own desires. Midoriya usually hunts them down violently and will stop them at all costs. He doesn't try to save them. And I suppose he goes with the idea that these people were already set in their ways, so there's no way to try and save them. But I don't know, Gendo seemed like a nice guy. Didn't stop Midoriya from slamming him into the ground, beating him up until he was disabled, stuff like that. It seems Midoriya's whole determination of I have to stop villains so they don't harm innocent people changed to I need to save everybody because everyone deserves to be saved, which once again just doesn't follow anything he's ever been taught. Like, he's raised to stop villains, not necessarily save them, but that's neither here nor there. It seems contradictory to Midoriya's character just because of the disregard of life, but maybe this is just a new facet of Midoriya's character that I've been missing all this time. Maybe Shigaraki really is a special case because he got that little glimpse of information. If that's the case, once again, perfectly fine. I'm fine with it. Then the last major issue I have is that this choice receives no backlash at all. It seems oddly off-putting to me. All these people before Midoriya sacrificed their lives to cultivate that power. The power to stop All For One, destroy it, and make sure it could never harm anybody else again. An inherently heroic goal. Destroying All For One is a net positive for everybody else because it prevents the continuation of All For One and his power and the possible havoc it could wreak upon the world. And yet, not a single person goes against this 16-year-old's idea of risking saving somebody who is a conscientious murderer. I understand Midoriya not wanting to kill Shigaraki because that's beyond his moral complexities as a 16-year-old, but the rest of the group, I don't get why they let that slide. Not a single person contests what Midoriya says. They're all rocking with this idea that, yeah, sure, go ahead Midoriya, you try and save that boy, even though he's definitely gonna kill a whole bunch of people, and has killed a bunch of people. Go ahead. I don't know, that just seems weird to me. All these people who sacrificed their lives, and the only real development for specifically saving people, the saving power as Midoriya calls it, doesn't even apply to the people that Midoriya is talking about. It's about saving the innocents, saving those who can't help themselves, at least from All Might's perspective, at least from what I understand of All Might's perspective, not saving villains. I find it weird that no one's willing to speak up against this childish idea that he may try to save All For One's new user because he felt a little spark of innocence. It just seems weird. These are all fully grown adults, but maybe they don't want to pressure 16-year-old Midoriya. That's the thing. With all these points, you can come up with an excuse for them all. Midoriya is just a deeper, more complex character than we thought for any of the morally ambiguous things. No one's speaking to him because they're scared of harming a 16-year-old mentally, all that stuff. All these points, the reason I don't like it, it's all personal character stuff. Midoriya and his choice function perfectly as the symbols that they're meant to be in the narrative. I don't take any problem with that, but please, tell me what you guys think. Actually, tell me this. Do you agree with Midoriya's choice and why? Or do you disagree with Midoriya's choice and why? What do you think Midoriya should have done? Do you think this saving idea is good? Do you think he shouldn't have done it? Tell me what you guys think. I really want to hear this. I want to spark discussion on this one because this is something I've thought about for a while. Ever since I posted my original review, ever since I read the chapter, I just want to hear it. Let's talk about it in the comment section down below. Please drop your essays. I'll read them. But regardless of that, thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.